In this video, I'm going to talk about how to think about sharing news in updates. Here are some things about updates. When times are really tough and people have heard you're going through something, they care, but they also don't want to say the wrong thing. So people start tiptoeing around you, which can feel like many of your interactions are awkward. Or people ask questions and you end up saying the same thing over and over again and getting tired. If you do an email or private website post, you can tell multiple people at once, as well as set the tone and give people a roadmap of where you are and even how they might have helpful conversations with you. I'm going to do this topic in 2 video parts, with 3 sections in this part A. 1. Many people run right into their own objections when they think about a strategy for updating their community during tough times. I'll talk through some common reasons that people resist doing group updates in order to help you think about your own decision. 2. I'll recommend a target level of detail and privacy for your updates. And 3. I'll give you some template points for how to script your updates based on what worked well for us. And there's a Word doc starter script for you on the website for these videos, which you can download. And then, in a Part B video, I'll give some recommended websites where you can share updates to keep them private inside your community. First, I'll talk about some objections that people have against doing updates. One common and good reason for not doing a group update is that you find it easier to do things yourself and not have others involved. That's a personal choice, and it's absolutely the right one for some people. Sometimes not wanting to talk about it is motivated by your own concern that if others talk about it, it feels more real. If no one else talks about it, then maybe it's less scary. That's legitimate and that's a personal feeling. But of course, it actually is occurring, and so you can think about discussing updates with others. Some people feel different or separate from others who aren't in the traumatic situation, or even some shame. Of course, it's up to you, but Brené Brown talks well about how she moved beyond shame. Some people don't want others to know because they want to be strong. Another personal choice, but remember that mountain climbers don't go it alone on their first time on stressful climbs. We don't expect 16-year-olds to learn how to navigate driving all by themselves, and business people have advisors for trying new businesses. Some people object to sharing updates because they feel strange talking about what sometimes our culture treats as private. You can both be a private person and still do updates, and in the next few minutes of video, I'll go into some detail and describe how. One last objection, which I totally understand. You don't want to take on more things to do at this point. What I would say is that in my experience over our years, you'll actually reduce the fatigue and work of staying on top of your to-do list by doing these updates. And your life can feel more like normal, because when you run into a friend at the grocery store, they can already know what's going on and just talk to you about other things. And you don't have to catch them up on what's going on and then do the same thing with the next friend that you meet. That makes conversations much easier and more natural. So while you maybe think about this update thing, let's talk about how to and some of the benefits. Bottom line here is that your updates should probably aim for the kind of things you'd tell the 3rd or 4th ring of your social community. Your social contacts can be visualized like layers of an onion, where you're at the center. You have an inner circle of close friends or family with whom you might share the most. Then you have good friends, and then in the 3rd ring, what I called often seen acquaintances, which might be people you deal with in your work. The 4th ring are people you know and might quite like, but you just don't see them as much, like neighbors. And friends of friends I put in here because we got some amazing help from people this far out, so I thought it important to mention. But for the purposes of the updates, if you're concerned about being private, you can think of what you'd say if you ran into someone in the 3rd or 4th ring at the grocery store. You don't have to give them detailed diagnosis and plan, and you can keep lots of information private to yourself. But even updates at this level can be helpful. Here's a basic form for updates with concerning news. If this seems basic, great. It really is pretty easy, but here are some guidelines. Start short with updates, and first get right to the facts. For instance, I'm writing to share that our doctors diagnosed cancer in someone close to me. Next, you can develop your line to tell people to keep their distance. And this is something that you can say in the update, but also when you run into people and it gets a little uncomfortable. You can say something like, we don't want to go into more details right now or talk odds and treatments except with our doctors, but we'll keep updating from time to time. You should comment a little bit about your state of emotions right now. Just tell people we're knocked for 6 and we're taking some time. This is an important one. Give people the words you want to hear from them. And I'm going to talk in the next slide about it, but that's an important piece. And 5, Tell them something light about your normal day-to-day, like a weekend you're looking forward to or a game. This gives everyone something to think about that isn't the concerning news and can help you have conversations and other people think about things without being too upset. Lastly, end by thanking them and asking that they check here for updates in the future. Words you want to hear from your community. Traumatic news is tough, and you will feel differently at different points. People around you will care, and the best thing for you to do is to lead them in conversations and for them to follow your lead for what is helpful. Like a couple's dance with a leader and a follower, the leader needs to communicate. In this case, you can take a day or few and listen to what thoughts help you to feel calmer. I call some thoughts antidote thoughts, like if you accidentally swallowed something toxic and had an antidote to take that would neutralize it. If you have a certain type of cancer, but know that many people make it through, that's a thought that helps neutralize some concern. If you phrase that into your update, people will hear it and latch on to it. When you see them, it's something that they can say, and presto, you're hearing good things from the people around you. Other things that you might want to talk about with your community are things that you're grateful for even now. And another thing that's nice to talk about with your community are some small things that you're looking forward to. The weekend, a movie, or something like that. Updates help keep your community in touch with you and on the same page. In another video, I'll talk about how your perspective changes over time, and you can be a different person on different days. And what feels helpful to you changes over time. Sometimes you can say, we're feeling a little bit more private and need to recharge. Or you can say, we're going into a time with a lot of things to do and would love some help or company on these things. And all the while this is going on, being in touch with people helps and fosters connection, and people often thanked us just for being in touch with them. I'm going to keep this video short and stop here. Hopefully some of what I said helps you think through the pros and cons for your situation and your approach. In the next video, Part B, I'll suggest and describe some specific private website hosting services for keeping your information inside your community. See you in another video.